But I retweeted out this as well. Trump talking about the woke agenda. I'm glad that he actually calls it Marxism most of the time.
The woke agenda is practically gone. It's deep-seated. We have to make sure it's out. That's very bad. It's like a weed. You think you killed it, and then it starts growing again. So we have to be careful.
And he's right. It is like a weed. It is like a weed. And I'm glad that they're getting it out of a lot of places in the federal government. It's nice to see people who are still promoting this kind of stuff get fired literally in real time on Twitter. That's great. But Bridge is still a thing, and I really wish I could get in contact with someone to talk to about Bridge. Gotta get the people in power that push it out of their seats. Yeah. I really need to get this in front of somebody who could actually get it in front of the politician people. And this guy, Brian Harrison, says, caught on tape, Texas A&M student kicked out of class after objecting to transgender indoctrination. A&M president defends the LGBTQ studies. He said, I'm referring to at TAMU. TAMU? Texas A&M University. I was like, what's a TAMU? To the Trump administration for investigation and asking Governor Greg Abbott to fire the A&M officials involved and to instruct his regents at all public universities to immediately end all DEI and LGBTQ indoctrination. Hidden camera video and audio, letters to the Trump administration and Governor Abbott, as well as some of the course materials my office has obtained are in the thread below. Let me turn off my BGM, because this is a student at Texas A&M who is talking to the teacher. Keep in mind that the teacher is in the beginning here saying that they have some stuff about sexuality to teach that they didn't get to in the last class. And we'll learn why they didn't get to it in the last class in a second here.
I just have a question because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching. Because according to our president, there's only 2 genders, and he said that he would be freezing agencies funding programs that promote gender ideology. I like how this person is very clearly worried about speaking, but I love the way they're saying it. Just like the I'm pretty sure this is illegal. I don't know. It's a little bit of smugness mixed in with the worry, and I'm here for it, man. And this also very much goes against not only myself, but a lot of people's religious beliefs. And so I am not going to participate in this because it's not legal, and I don't want to promote something that is against our president's laws as well as against my religious beliefs.
You certainly have the right to engage in things that you find religious. And you suggested something else.
Yes.
You are under in misconception that what I'm saying is
Well, can you explain to me how teaching us about gender identity and transgenderism and that there's more sexes than
gender isn't illegal.
Huh?
My gender isn't illegal.
My gender isn't illegal? You saying that the teacher themselves is a gender special? Interesting. I mean, I guess that's going to be a real easy way to find the immediate ideologues. It's going to be harder to root out the ones that aren't some form of visible gender special.
Gender? What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Gender is not illegal. According to President Trump's executive order, if you want me to read the paragraph in the order itself.
If you are uncomfortable in this class, you do have the right to leave.
Yes.
What we are doing is not illegal. And if you would like to know that it is, you need to talk to the department head or the head of undergraduate.
Well, I've already been in contact with the president of A&M, and I actually have a meeting with him in person to show.
Holy shit, I love this student. That's crazy. Student's just like, yeah, you know, I already thought of that. Actually, I'm just going to parry that ball back at you.
All of my documentation tomorrow, but
we are also aware, and this is part of why there was an observer in class.
yes.
There was an observer in class yesterday? Oh, you mean to tell me that there was someone in class observing you yesterday to see if you're teaching things that you shouldn't be teaching that could get the school their federal funding cut? And at the beginning of this lesson plan, you said, oh, there's some gender stuff that we didn't get to go over yesterday. Didn't get to! Or left it out on purpose while the observer was watching you.
I'm not convinced that your proposal will be effective in stopping me from teaching things that are biologically true, because I do have the legal and ethical authority, little of the professional expertise in this classroom.
Okay.
I'm legally.
Yeah, no, I am.
I like how the teacher needs to try and reassert their dominance by being like, it's time for you to leave. When the student like opened up with like, yeah, I'm gonna leave. Like, yeah, I don't think you should be teaching this, and like, I'm not gonna stay. Like trying to get back some of your authority there after being humiliated in front of your classroom, you weirdo fuck. So continuing in this thread after that video, there's a letter to Governor Abbott demanding immediate action. Governor Abbott, this January, during your State of the State address, you stated that any educator who tells students that boys can be girls should be fired on the spot. I agree. Well, I provided your office with a binder almost a foot thick full of examples of this and DEI occurring in our public universities back in February. Nothing has been done to stop it. During my short time in the Texas legislature, I have become aware that Texas may be the biggest promoter and funder of DEI and LGBTQ indoctrination in America. And I must make you aware of perhaps the most egregious instance I've uncovered. I had a Texas A&M whistleblower student provide my office with video evidence of her being kicked out of a children's literature class after she objected to persistent transgender and DEI indoctrination. So that's crazy. She's probably at school, I'm guessing, for like a teacher's degree if she's in a class called children's literature. But the fact that this teacher was teaching a children's literature course and they were trying to shoehorn in like trans stuff for children's literature, what do you mean? What the fuck is this? Students were forced to learn the gender unicorn, which propagandizes extreme transgender ideology. The taxpayer-funded professor also taught what could be considered encouragement to engage in criminal child grooming, and gave instructional materials that stated, "Why talk about queerness at all in children's literature? Isn't that way too adult for little kids?" Well, no. During a class instruction on Let's Talk Gender in Children's Lit, the professor taught that childhood is the time for figuring out how to be a boy, girl, man, woman, or another gender, and that children and adolescents are expected to be sexless, even as our culture valorizes, idealizes, and even eroticizes youth. What in the Nickelodeon child star am I reading here? What the action? Someone called Dan the Footman. We found his estranged cousin. Fuck up. Yeah, fire up those chippers, man. After objecting to such instruction occurring, the student was ordered to leave the class and told she was not welcome to return. The whistleblower went to President Welsh, whose indefensible response was to defend the teacher, state that he will not consider firing her, and defend the decision for Texas A&M to teach this material because it was needed training for future public school administrators. I need to see Trump or someone in his cabinet announcing an immediate stop to all federal funding for Texas A&M, dude. Holy shit. If they won't fire her, defund the school 1,000%. 1,000%, man. Your office will be given video and audio recordings that corroborate this. While the legislature chose not to stop DEI and LGBTQ indoctrination in our public universities, you have the power to end it. I am respectfully requesting that you, in line with your January directive, 1, direct your politically appointed regents at Texas A&M to immediately fire this professor and President Welsh. Good. This is what needs to happen. If you're actually going to get rid of DEI, you need to remove the people who, under any means necessary, will continue to do the work under any other name. Those people have to find jobs elsewhere where they're not responsible for shaping the minds of our next generation or putting policy into place. 2, direct all of your politically appointed regents at all of our public universities and immediately take all necessary action to rid all DEI and LGBTQ activity and instruction. And 3, call the legislature back for a special session to finally pass a total ban on taxpayer-funded DEI and LGBTQ indoctrination within any state agency, including our public universities. And apparently Brian Harrison is a Texas House rep for District, I think that says 10. That's crazy to see a representative just saying this. I just assumed this was some random Twitter person. He said, a letter to the Trump administration referring Texas A&M for investigation. Also, he sent one to the Trump admin and Abbott. Very interesting. He said, Secretaries Kennedy and McMahon, I appreciate the work the Trump administration and your agencies have done to protect taxpayers from being forced to fund diversity, equity, and inclusion and transgender indoctrination, especially in public universities, and to enforce President Trump's bold directive that is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. These sexes are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality. Incontrovertible. A rare word. As a former chief of staff of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services during the first Trump administration, I have tremendous appreciation for the responsibilities you are entrusted with and am aware of how much funding comes out of your agencies for universities in Texas. I had a Texas A&M whistleblower student provide my office with video evidence of her being kicked out of a children's lit class after she objected to persistent transgender and DEI indoctrination. We read this other paragraph coming up next in the last letter. And then I previously referred Texas A&M to the Trump administration for investigation into discriminatory DEI practices, and I am now expanding that request. Since the Texas government has not ended this taxpayer-funded liberal indoctrination, I am writing to respectfully request that you or other agencies take appropriate action to ensure that Texas universities receiving federal funds are complying with President Trump's executive order. What a wonderful letter to read. You love to see it, chat. And then we have another video here, maybe?
Yes, hate speech, yeah, absolutely. And I also don't, I held my mouth closed this whole semester, about my personal beliefs, but as, part of my rights is this goes against my religion. So
you are very free to leave, and now is the time to do that. Please do not.
okay.
Are there other questions I can answer about the sex gender system or non-binary identities, such as Jews?
I know she didn't say it, but it sounded like at the end there she said the non-binary system, such as Jews. I can't tell what words she said. It sounded like that, but I know it's not. And also, the sex gender system, by the way? What the fuck? Audio of the student asking Texas A&M president to fire the professor who kicked her out, and who was blatantly indoctrinating students in transgender ideology. God damn. This student is so fucking smart. They recorded absolutely everything.
Tell me what exactly you want changed. I mean, you're trying to pick a fight here. What do you want?
I'm not trying to pick a fight. No, sir, I'm not. I'm trying to...
Tell me what you're looking for. What do you expect us to do? Fire her?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, because it goes against...
Okay, well, that's not happening. Tell me what exactly...
Well, why isn't it happening? Why wouldn't it happen? Texas A&M president defending the need to teach LGBTQ courses to train future school superintendents. These commie fucks have had control of our education system for so long that they can't even envision a world in which we kick them all out.
There are LGBTQ studies here. There have been for a long time.
And
We have people who go into professional track courses here. There's not that many. There's 2 courses this year that had, I think, 37 people in them. Of those, I believe the number was 34 or 35 are people who are going to be psychiatrists or clinical counselors, some who want to be school superintendents, people who want to work in
I was gonna say, the fucking psychologist stuff is a huge cop-out, because this is being taught in a children's literature class, not a psychology course. And he just shoehorns in superintendents there at the end. It's not something a superintendent really needs to learn about.
nonprofits supporting governments in Texas. Those people don't get to pick who their clients are, what citizens they serve, and they want to understand the issues affecting the people that they're going to treat.
okay.
So there is a professional reason to teach some of these courses. There are
Not in a children's literature class. I'm releasing instructional materials obtained from this children's literature course. The age of focus was children aged 3 to 12 years old. Texas A&M children's literature professor forced students to learn the gender unicorn. And this is something we've seen for a million years now. Like, I even remember seeing this in the fucking gym video back in the day. You have the gender unicorn graphic by Trans Student Educational Resources. You have the gender identity, which has female, woman, girl, which, whatever happened to those useful idiots who were lying and saying, well, gender is different from sex, we're gonna be women when we change our gender, not female, but now female is also a gender identity, I guess, Gender expression, feminine, masculine, and other. Sex assigned at birth of female, male, other / intersex. Who you're physically attracted to, women, men, or other genders. And who you're emotionally attracted to, women, men, or other genders. Oh my god, it's the Law and Order meme. I'm not gay. I have sex with men and relationships with women. I got news for you, buddy. Yeah, this is for 3 to 12-year-olds. Isn't talking about queerness way too adult for little kids? Well, no. Thinking about homosexuality or queer people are always X-rated is an effect of heteronormativity. The idea that being heterosexual or straight is normal as well as normative. Normal in the sense that lots of people are straight, true, and normative in the sense that being straight is obvious, necessary, or correct, not necessarily true. This implies that being queer is abnormal, wrong, or out of the ordinary. An example, queer people often have a narrative of coming out to their friends and family, or a moment of realizing they were gay. Straight people, however, don't have to come out, and rarely can point to a single moment when they knew they were straight. This implies shit. Heteronormativity leads to compulsory heterosexuality, or the assumption that all people are, should be, or will be in straight relationships. Think, for example, of an adult calling a baby boy a lady killer, or asking a preschool girl if her male playmate is her boyfriend. These behaviors aren't necessarily wrong, but they make assumptions about children's desires by mapping adult heterosexuality upon them. Think also of how many fairy tales aimed at young children end with a heterosexual kiss and a marriage scene, because most of us are primed to think of heterosexuality as the norm. The marriage at the end of Cinderella or Snow White seems romantic and unremarkable, while the ending of Princess seems surprising or even transgressive. Isn't Princess like a manga? Isn't that like a manga where like boys dress as women? Am I crazy? Are they teaching about a cross-dressing manga? They want you to think being queer is abnormal. Do you think these people listen to themselves? It's because they always correlate it with negative connotation language like wrong as well, which is again why like I've talked to some people who generally believe in the same things I do, but as soon as it comes to like calling dysphoria a mental illness, they get incredibly defensive, and they're just like, you can't call it a mental illness because that means you're looking down on them and you're thinking of them as lesser than a human being. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, never in my life has that been the case. Gay people who think these people are crazy, anything having to do with sex is not appropriate for a child, 1,000%. But this is why, like, they get away with using this kind of language. And it's really unfortunate that they do. They do it up here with using wrong alongside abnormal and out of the ordinary. And then they did it again, because most of us are primed to think of heterosexuality as the norm, which it is. It is just the norm. It's how society and humans have lived as long as we have. Because without it, we wouldn't have continued having babies. Like anything, ideas about romantic love, marriage, and sexuality age up with children. The kind of details you would include while talking to a 4-year-old would be different than when you talk to a 14-year-old. But talking in age-appropriate terms about a wide spectrum of genders and sexualities makes everyone more free. Children are, I don't want to use the word coddled, but protected for a reason. When you are young, you're typically retarded. You don't have a fully functioning brain, and you just kind of believe anything adults tell you. It's why children believe in things like Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. They have the childlike imagination, and they just assume that adults would not lie to them. Unless you've had some sort of terrible upbringing like mine, where you realize adults do in fact lie, you're typically going to grow up in that safer environment. And so adults priming children to be confused at a very early age when they do not know what anything is going to make it harder for them to make decisions in the future. Here's some more slides from that children's lit classroom. Let's talk gender in children's lit. 7 of the top 10 most frequently challenged books in K through 12 classrooms were challenged because of objection to LGBTQ characters or themes. Sex and sexuality are so fraught in children's literature because childhood is the time for figuring out how to be a boy, girl, man, woman, or another gender. Culturally, adults have a strong and persistent investment in what is perceived to be the innocence of children. I don't like how they phrase that. That just, something about the way that that's phrased sets off a red flag in my brain. Children and adolescents are expected to be sexless even as our culture valorizes, idealizes, and eroticizes youth. From the very beginning. One of the first books marketed to children, John Newbery's A Little Pretty Pocketbook, 1744, came with gender-specific toys. Are you really reaching back to 1744 to find something to bitch about? Holy shit. A ball for boys and a pincushion for girls. Not so different from the McDonald's Happy Meal toys of today. You know what I did when I would go to McDonald's as a kid and I knew they had like Pokemon toys or like Polly Pocket toys? I'd be like, Dad, I want the Pokemon. And my dad would say, okay. And I would get the Pokemon. There wasn't any discussion about gender or if Pokemon was okay for girls to play with. I just got the Pokemon toy. And I think this is like a really weird thing to have done, where we spent so long trying to be like, hey, you know, even if there are generally these toys that boys play with and generally these toys that girls play with, it doesn't matter if you're a boy and you want to play with something typically for girls, and it doesn't matter if you're a girl and you want to play with something typically for boys. You can play with whatever the fuck you want to, actually. And I think that was a healthy mindset to teach children, right? Like, you can play with whatever the fuck you want, and that's fine. You're gonna grow up and you're gonna figure out what you want and what you like. There's another slide from this children's literature curriculum. Feminist critic Gail Rubin coined the term sex/gender system to refer to the set of arrangements by which a society transforms biological sexuality into products of human activity. Sex, biological distinctions such as male, female, or intersex based on genetic and anatomical features. Gender is a system of culturally and historically specific behavior sets, such as masculinity or girlhood. What the hell? Sex does not determine gender. Gender performance are the things one does, says, or refrains from doing in order to be perceived as a certain gender, i.e. wearing their hair long, wearing heels or lipstick, sitting with legs wide. Reality of gender is created through sustained social performances. Gender identities, sense of selfhood, are partially self-determined and partially imposed or policed by others. Childhood gender forms can be distinct from adults. Tomboys, sissies, mama boys, daddy's girls, etc. I have no idea what she means by that. Because, like, tomboy, when you say it, you think of something specific. You think of a girl that typically prefers playing out in the mud rather than with dolls. Sometimes has short hair, but doesn't necessarily need to. Just likes being out and active and doing things that typically are considered male hobbies. When you say sissy, you just think of an incredibly effeminate gay male. When you say mama's boy, you think of a red flag of a man who puts his mother ahead of everybody else in his life, and that might end up being an issue later on when the mother gets jealous of him having a wife and possible children. Daddy's girls could also potentially be a red flag. I've never been called a daddy's girl despite loving my father and hating my mother. So I'm not really sure. When I think of daddy's girl, I guess I don't really think of much of anything. Maybe that's because I don't date women. Can men enlighten me? What do you think of when you think of a daddy's girl? Daddy's girl is still a green flag because the father is there and involved. True and real. You're related to 2 daddy's girls and they're both red flags. Oh, I guess it could be. Well, no, this is a childhood thing, so it wouldn't be the like BDSM daddy's girl. What about the girls that call you daddy? That's where my brain went, but then I was like, wait a minute, no, that wouldn't fit here. That wouldn't fit here. Oedipus complex is way more pop culture than the Electra complex. Also true and real. Daddy's girls are normally spoiled and obnoxious. Oh, so like they have a rich daddy and they just coddle her and buy her everything. No children's lit course would be complete without teaching about queer melancholia theory. Queer melancholia theory? Answer the first two questions plus at least one more. What did you learn about young adult novels centering AIDS from the article? I've never read a young adult novel that centers AIDS. And I'm surprised those exist. If you read World Made of Glass, how does your book relate to this novel? Link a specific idea from the article to a particular passage from the novel. What is AIDS crisis revisitation? A term used by Alexandra Juhas and Theodore Kerr. I don't know who those people are or what AIDS crisis revisitation is. What is the difference between oh god, I can't pronounce pedagogy correctly. Between a pedagogy of heterosexualization and a politics of memorialization. This is weirdly obsessive about AIDS. Wait a second, you're lost. Are we still on the children? Yeah, this is still the children's literature class. What is queer melancholia theory? Or melancholic maturation? I've never heard of that either. What did Judith Butler say about heteronormativity in the 1990s? Who is Judith Butler? This article focuses on young adult books. How might or is literature about AIDS for younger audiences different? Is this kind of like how during the monkeypox thing where there were like animals and children getting monkeypox and everyone's like, how is that happening? I would have to question, like, unless you were born with it because your mother somehow accidentally gave it to you hereditarily through when you were growing as a fetus. How the fuck would a child get AIDS? How does any of this apply to children's or young adult literature? That's a great question. Next question. You can see why the superintendent of the school was fired this oh my god, were they really? Do we have an update? This was only a day ago. A Black Cat in the Hat exploring Dr. Seuss's racial imagination. What? Black Cat in the Hat. My Gay Agenda. Jimenez.pdf. Dark, fantastic intro. Why we shouldn't shield children from darkness.
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
What the fuck am I looking at? My Hero Gay Agenda. This is by Laura M. Jimenez, My Gay Agenda, embodying intersectionality in children's literature scholarship. What the fuck? This is so weird, man. Look for a page or an image that you think has something to say about gender roles or same-sex attraction or both. Pick another page and repeat the process. You can work with the same partner from the last slide. This time, specifically look for a page or an image that you think has something to say about gender roles or same-sex attraction or both. Out loud, list all the details you notice, taking turns with your partner. With your partner, brainstorm some questions you could ask about these details. But this time, use My Gay Agenda to help you ask or answer the question. On your in-class writing, answer one of your questions using a quote or summary from both Princess and My Gay Agenda to support your interpretation. Everything is racist, everything is sexist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out. Thread continues here. That's cool and all, but now, let's see if actually this Brian Harrison guy tweeted about it. Why does it take this level of exposure to get these schools to comply? Because they're Marxists, and they must push this ideology by any means necessary. As it's for the greater good, didn't you know? When does the Texas A&M president lose his job? I would like to know. A&M refuses to confirm if anyone's been fired. This is 39 minutes ago. Texas A&M stated last night that 2 individuals had been removed from their administrative positions, but when my office asked Texas A&M if anyone had actually been fired, they refused to answer. So this says, hi, Cassie. Thanks for reaching out. Just want you to know that I received your message and will get you a response as soon as it's available. And I guess this is his office asking, according to Dr. Welsh's statement last night, linked below, the dean and department head have been removed from their administrative positions. Please confirm whether or not these individuals are still employed in any capacity by Texas A&M University or any entity that receives funding from the Texas government, and whether or not they will continue to receive a paycheck from Texas A&M University or any entity that receives funding from the Texas government. They're trying to hide again, maybe? I learned a statement from Texas A&M University President Mark A. Welsh III. I learned this afternoon that key leaders in the College of Arts and Sciences approved plans to continue teaching course content that was not consistent with the course's published description. As a result, I directed the provost to remove the dean and department head from their administrative positions effective immediately. Our students use the published information in the course catalog to make important decisions about the courses they take in pursuit of their degrees. If we allow different courses' content to be taught from what is advertised, we let our students down. When it comes to our academic offerings, we must keep our word to our students and to the state of Texas. Well, this is interesting from Welsh, but wasn't he in one of the recordings? The way that this student is questioning him, I would feel like it's very obvious he's being recorded. But these people are so confident that they are doing the right thing that it's everyone else who is wrong and or a bigot and or a fascist, that he doesn't even take into consideration that she might be recording him. He just fucking talks, which is how, when I read a lot of these like internal pages and these white pages and I go to the bridge meetings, these people just talk honestly about what they're doing. When they feel like they're not at risk of being outed publicly, they will just be completely fucking honest. First, we're gonna talk about this fucking soy cuck excuse for a judge. UK judge wishes convicted Al-Qaeda terrorist who killed 52 in London bus bombings all the best as he prepares to walk free in Britain. Sir Robert J. sympathized with the Al-Qaeda terrorist Haroon Aswat, who will be released from the hospital without ankle tag monitoring because of a loophole which forbids checks on psychiatric patients, despite police fears that he remains a threat. What even is the UK anymore? I've been saying that for years, baby. The fact that he's not only being let out, but also being let out without any kind of monitoring is just insane. And when he does kill more people, I think this judge should also face repercussions for the crimes. Because this terrorist should not be allowed to walk free. And it's even worse than I originally thought. This guy said, there's a little more to this story Americans should know about. The terrorist, Haroon Aswat, was extradited from the UK to the United States in 2015 after a long legal battle, and he was convicted and sentenced to 20 years for setting up a terrorist camp in Oregon. Then in 2022, well short of his full term of sentencing, the Biden administration quietly and with almost no fanfare shipped him back to the UK. I had no idea that even happened. I had no idea he was in the US. He had been convicted and then set free. He was setting up a terrorist camp in Oregon, and Biden just shipped him the fuck back to the UK. Literally no idea that this happened at all. Now the UK has set him free with a pat on the back. My point, Democrats love terrorists more than they love Americans, and let's not even talk about the dhimmi status of the serfs in the UK. This is October 17th, 2015. Haroon Aswat given 20 years in prison for terror crimes. I like how they call him a British man. Haroon Aswat is not a British man. From Batley, West Yorkshire, pleaded guilty to terrorism charges in New York in March. He admitted to conspiring with radical Muslim cleric Abu Hamza al-Masari to set up a camp 15 years ago in Oregon. District Judge Catherine Forrest said Aswat, who suffers from paranoid schizophrenia, would be returned to the UK on completion of his sentence. Aswat had also pleaded guilty to one count of proving material support to Al-Qaeda. The court heard he spent 6 weeks in Seattle and Oregon in 2000 as a part of a plot to set up a training camp for Al-Qaeda recruits who wanted to fight in Afghanistan. He had been under orders from Abu Hamza, who was sentenced to life in prison in January for a series of terrorism offenses. Can I ask, if someone is convicted of like a terrorism offense, why is it not an automatic life sentence? Well, I feel like if you're convicted of something like terroristic attacks and terroristic planning, that should just be automatic life, man. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Why are they alive? Also, yeah, that's a good point. If you actually commit the terroristic act, it should just be automatic death. I remember when I was younger, all these like fucking people crying about waterboarding in Guantanamo Bay. But like, why am I supposed to feel bad for people getting waterboarded when they have committed like grave, crazy acts against people? Why not automatic death sentence for killing 52 fucking people? Great question. Speaking after the sentencing, Assistant Attorney General for National Security John Carlin said, Aswat was arrested more than 10 years ago and his sentence is the result of tireless and persistent efforts of law enforcement to hold accountable all those who wish to harm the United States, whether at home or abroad, no matter how long it takes. Aswat was arrested by UK authorities in 2005 at RAF Northolt, and 3 years later he was transferred from prison to Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital. If people are going to claim that they are too mentally ill to understand when they're breaking laws, they're so mentally ill that they can't help themselves but rape or murder or bomb people, right? Like, if they are unable to get around their mental illness and live in society, that should not be an excuse to give them a lighter sentence or let them free. They clearly cannot be allowed to live in civilized society. And I don't understand why people insist that that's not the case. He fought extradition for several years, with the European Court of Human Rights ruling in September 2013 that he could not be extradited as his mental health could deteriorate. However, in September 2014, 2 High Court judges said they were satisfied he would receive satisfactory care in the US. He lost his final legal battle when in January 2015, the European Court of Human Rights dismissed a case he brought against the UK government, arguing his extradition rested on inadequate assurances from US officials about his treatment. Aswat's defense lawyer, Peter Lejano, told reporters he would be requesting his client's transfer to the UK to complete his sentence, and he hoped this would be approved by the Department of Justice. If somebody told me this was a bad Photoshop of Sam Hyde, I would have believed them. This is November 10th, 2022. ICE agents returned a British-born member of Al-Qaeda who pleaded guilty in 2015 to trying to start a terrorist training camp in Oregon to England. Harun Rashid Aswat of Botley in West Yorkshire, England, had been at a federal prison medical facility in Devons before being transferred to Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody Wednesday to be removed to the United Kingdom. His extradition was handled by a Boston-based ICE enforcement and removal operations team the same day. Mr. Aswat, who sought to train future Al-Qaeda members and provided material support to terrorist organizations around the globe, had been successfully turned over to authorities in the UK, said Todd Lyons, field director for ERO's Boston office. This operation reminds us all of the critical contributions to public safety that our dedicated and tireless team of professionals make on a daily basis. Aswat came to the U.S. on a visa in 1999, but overstayed its terms, according to an ICE statement. He joined fellow Al-Qaeda members Osasama Kasir and Ernest James Ujama to establish a training camp in a rural area of southern Oregon near the unincorporated community of Bly in Klamath County. This was under the direction of fellow Al-Qaeda member Mustafa Kamel Mustafa, also known as Abu Hamza, who was the Imam of Finsbury Park Mosque in London, England, according to court charging documents. The other men were members of the mosque. The purpose of the camp, according to prosecutors, was to train radicalized Muslims in various ways, including military training to fight jihad in Afghanistan. A 1999 faxed letter sent from Ujama, already in Oregon, to Abu Hamza in the UK, described the Bly spot as looking just like Afghanistan, and that the group was already stockpiling weapons and ammunition. It was on receipt of this letter that Abu Hamza sent the other 2 members, including Aswat, to Oregon to train up the members already recruited. They arrived in New York on November 26, 1999, and traveled to Bly from there. You know, reading about these things, like, in hindsight, really makes you think about how easy it must have been for them to set up the, 9/11 attacks in 2001. If, they were able to do all of this in 1999, Oh, like, that's crazy, man. What are the chances he does it again? He's clearly learned his lesson. Well, he bombed and killed 52, 56 people in the UK. So I'm pretty confident that he has not learned a lesson and is not a good little boy. Harun Aswat fought his extradition to the United States for almost 10 years. Said then U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Preet Bharara, at the time of Aswat's sentencing. He then pled guilty to material support charges within just 6 months of arriving here, showing again our legal system's capacity for swift justice. Aswat was arrested in 2005 back in England at the request of the U.S. government, but fought his extradition to stand trial for terrorist charges in the U.S. for 10 years. He argued that his mental health, he has schizophrenia, according to documents, should preclude his extradition. I really hate that people can use this as like a get out of jail free card, man. It's like you're a terrorist, you have surrendered your human rights. He was finally extradited in 2015 and pleaded guilty in federal court in the Southern District of New York to 1 count of conspiracy to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization, and 1 count of providing material support to a foreign terrorist organization. Abu Hamza and Kassir had already been convicted of their roles, and Kassir was sentenced to life in prison in 2009, and Abu Hamza the same in 2015. So, yeah, not only did he kill 50 plus Britons in a bombing, but prior to that happening, he tried to set up a terrorist training camp in the United States. The great cucked kingdom strikes again. To be fair, both the US and the UK sound incredibly fucking cucked in this story. This is just multi-country cuckening. Creepy California serial killer wore white face mask during prior burglary spree to hide his black identity, cops say. Oh man, that's kind of smart, brother, unfortunately. An alleged serial killer who met his victims on dating apps before savagely robbing and killing them had a lengthy California crime history that included wearing a white face mask to hide his black identity, authorities revealed. Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. If you believe the statistics that, like, I think it was OkCupid put out years ago. I think it was OkCupid or Match.com, I can't remember. But apparently black males are the least likely to get matched with any race of women. Like, regardless of the race of the woman, black males are like the least swiped right on. So it makes sense that he would wear a white male mask if he's posing as a white man on dating apps to accrue more victims. Prosecutors charged 34-year-old Rakeem Prowell on Monday for robbing and killing 2 men he met on dating apps in 2021 and 2023. He allegedly also attacked a 3rd victim in February of this year, tying him up. Hey, he was posing as a gay, beating him with a baseball bat and stealing his wallet. Prowell of Inglewood was already on probation for 2 burglary convictions between 2019 and 2021, but cops said he was likely linked to as many as 30 break-ins across Los Angeles. Damn, that's a lot. Holy shit. Not only is he doing whiteface, but he was also gay. Maybe he was a criminal bisexual, right? An equal opportunity crime committer. The deranged criminal attempted to avoid detection during the spree by sporting a creepy rubber mask that made him look like a young white man. Security footage reported by Fox 11 confirmed. If I saw a white guy walking towards me like this, I'd be like, something's wrong. Something ain't right here. He probably operated on the basis of any hole's a goal. Cops found the mask after pulling Prowell over in a car linked to the crimes. It is unclear whether Prowell wore the ghoulish face when he allegedly seduced, robbed, and murdered 51-year-old Miguel Angel King and 53-year-old Robert Gutierrez in 2021 and 2023, respectively, before fleeing the scene in their cars. Wait a minute, hold on. I can't tell if this is just because LA has basically been taken over by Hispanics, or if this guy is actually like a serial killer who targeted Hispanic people. Because both of these sound like Hispanic men, and serial killers typically have a type. King was found dumped in the Angeles National Forest with a fatal bullet wound, and authorities never located Gutierrez's body. But his car was discovered in Prowell's garage, authorities claim. Oh no. The creep allegedly tied up and tortured a 3rd man, Jordan Andrews. Well, there goes my serial killer theory. 40 in February of this year, beating him viciously with a baseball bat. Andrews managed to escape, but Prowell rammed him with a car as the victim fled, breaking his leg. Holy shit. This guy is fucking brutal. All these gun laws, and yet, imagine, a criminal is going to do crime regardless of what laws you put in place. I'm shocked. Imagine the terror and horror these victims felt after being duped into believing they were meeting for one reason, only to face inexplicable violence. LA District Attorney Nathan Hochman said in a release. Prowell now faces 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, plus carjacking, burglary, and assault with a deadly weapon. But this is kind of fucked up. This is kind of really fucked up. That he was catfishing people to just lure them to be murdered is incredibly fucked up.